Jan and I are going to tell our story, which is completely unrehearsed, I have to say. But will I kick off, Jan? Okay. So some of you, as those of you who know me, know that I've always tended to work across disciplines. In fact, my first degree was in technology and business studies. So I basically specialised in manufacturing and marketing. So when I left university, and I'm talking way back in time, when I left university, I actually worked for a technology company, and I was involved in business development of selling technology. And after that, I went into kind of project management of putting in these technologies, very often to manufacturing firms. And even way back then, and I'm talking back in the days where it was the start of ERP systems, I realised that even if you had the best technology, you weren't guaranteed success. There's lots of ingredients need to go in to implement technology or make changes in organisations. So as Daniel said, things like culture and leadership and strategies and communications and all these things I recognise were important. So when I came back into academia and I did my PhD, I've bounced around between business schools and engineering faculties. So again, I've tended to work across disciplines all my career. My own area is about operations management and performance improvement. But I tend to work in a space where things are changing. So that's how I kind of got involved in innovation as my thing. And I think over the years, I've had many grants from ESRC and EPSRC and the EU. I've had 10 KTPs. And I think in every one of them that I've done, there's been this interdisciplinary type approach. And I think that's the way to get things done. So I'm going to finish just by saying a couple of things about my hopes for the network. Some of the things that I am passionate about is supporting manufacturing. But I think manufacturing is changing, as we heard right at the start from Chris. And I think digital is a big part of this. So I think to make this transition is not just about the technology. We need to bring in new people. And we also need to change perspectives about manufacturing, images of manufacturing. It's not all about blokes in boiler suits and big bits of metal. That's not the manufacturing I see. So in terms of my hopes for the network, I think is bringing new voices around the table. It's about challenging some of these images of manufacturing. It's about encouraging people to work across these disciplines. It's about bringing new talent in. And I think it's also about helping academics to develop their career and giving them in this new context of manufacturing is hopefully something that's exciting. So that's my hopes. Jan.
Thank you, Jill. So it's been my career, for those of you who know me, I used to like to say it had been fairly equally split between academia and industry, but as I've got older, unfortunately, I can't quite say that anymore. But similarly to Jill, I knew, well, I did a degree that was essentially a combination of engineering and management. In fact, my degree doesn't exist anymore, but it was a range of very prestigious degrees that looked at a combination of, mine was actually called mechanical engineering, manufacture and management. And it was actually with Japanese. So that's a really, really long title. And in essence, it was an undergraduate master's degree in engineering and management with a language. And I was actually, it was at the time, I'm of that generation where I was actually sponsored through university for my degree by a manufacturing company, a company called ICI, who you might recognise now as either AstraZeneca, famous for the COVID vaccine, or a company called Syngenta, who is an agrochemical manufacturer. Now, why this is all important is actually way back then, one of my first projects I started as an engineer was to actually improve the performance of a manufacturing line. And I worked for an engineer who assumed I was going to find technical solutions to improve the performance of this line by about 20%. And I analysed the data and I came up with all these little incremental ways that you could potentially improve the line. But then I observed the people. And what you could actually see is that some of the reasons why changeovers were slow or people weren't so quick to respond to a breakdown wasn't to do necessarily with the technology, but was very much linked to the people. So I came up with this idea that I basically just said to the people, if you can do 2 weeks work in 9 days, you can have every other Friday off for training. And lo and behold, the performance of my plants went from about 65% to 80%, and they demonstrated without any technological change whatsoever that they could do 10 days work in 9 days. And I think for me that really brought home the importance that technology can help provide solutions, but it comes back to one of the cores of my discipline, ops management, similarly to Jill's, that really we have to think about the people, the process and the technology to really drive change. And what's really exciting about now is that we are on the cusp of the next stage of our industrial evolution, and not one that's just driven by digital technology, because fundamentally those business models that have driven our previous industrial revolutions, you could argue, are broken. And actually, you know, consumption driven economic growth is no longer going to be the way that we can continue to develop and support either society and the firms that support society. Going forward, going back to United Nations Global Sustainability Goal number 12, we need to think about how we can be both more responsible in our consumption and responsible in our production. And absolutely, as we move to new business models that perhaps look more based perhaps on things usage, we need the digital technologies to be able to support some of those more servitized business models that can support a shift to a more circular or sharing economy. And that by its very nature will change our manufacturing landscape, perhaps supporting very different models of manufacturing that are much more distributed and potentially more localized in their nature. And so I am so excited to have this opportunity to be a co-director. It's the only grant that I've actually ever applied for and really wanted, not because it's about the money, because if any of you know Jill or I, we're actually people that love to network. We like to form connections. And what this really is a plan for Jill and I by December 2024 to be sat somewhere surrounded by this community of people that are helping to transform UK manufacturing through the use of digital technologies. And Jill and I will be sat there sipping our gin and tonics, willing to hand the baton on, not necessarily even through a Network Plus, but because that network is so live and vibrant and self-sustaining that we'll know that we've done our job.